we would like to present our material, and the title is literal translation. And before we go to our material, I will introduce my group member. First is
hello, my name is Dede, Nisa.
My name is Lina Nurjanah.
Hello, my name is Azka Nursyaban.
Last is me. And next to the next slide here. And here next to introduction. Many of early translations say that in the translation theory, the only appropriate unit of translation is the whole text. This has resulted in the rejection of literal translation as a valid approach. No new word in these years are included. Semantic and grammatical correspondences between source language or SL word and target language word are like some. However, the author makes an example of three French sentences and their English translation to show that almost 90% of the sentences are translated literally. The thesis purpose is that literal translation can be potentially good and useful if its word is referential and pragmatic equivalences. And next, first is theory of word-for-word translation. Word-for-word translation directly how this works. Word-for-word translation work directly transfer the source language, or is considered SL, grammar, word order, and primary meaning, but it's only effective for simple sentence and natural sentence like daily conversation and maybe a simple sentence in that we use some hours. It also respect collocation, meaning making it more common than word-for-word translation. So this we can use this when it's effective in the simple sentence like daily conversation. And next is literal translation. Literal translation goes beyond these forms, applying them to word groups, collocation, and even sentences. Literal translation can be adapt grammatical structure while maintaining extra contextual things. And however, its literal translation becomes difficult when the unit of translation increases, especially above the word. Meaning that literal translation will be more complicated and difficult to use if the sentence that we will translate it more complicated in structure. Because in literal translation, we must include the grammatical and all structure in the sentence. So if it's more complicated the sentence, it will be difficult to use in literal translation. Okay, next is complicated and approaches to translating. Martin Geddes wrote a clear analysis of Walter Benjamin and Stephen George's translation of Baudelaire's poetry, emphasizes that George more poetic translator. It's often closer to the original language in terms of word choice and structure than Benjamin. A comparison of curtain lines show that George's translation is more literal, while Benjamin is more interpretive. This But Benjamin is more interpretive because he more approach to the translating theory of translating like that. That's all for me. Maybe next will be delivered by Lina. For Lina, thank you.
Okay, thank you for the time. Next about faithful and false friends. Faithful friends is words in two different languages that look or sound similar and share the same meaning. These words can be directly translated without causing any confusion because they refer to the same concept in both languages. For example, the word theater in English and theater in Indonesian share the same meaning, allowing the direct translation.
For the next is false friends is words that look or sound similar in two languages but have different meaning. This similarity can cause confusion if the words are directly translated without considering the context. Next, words in their context. Words in translation should be translated according to their syntactic, collocational, situational, and cultural context. This means that translators don't only translate word for word, but also consider the overall context of the text. For example, in the sentence, "The boy is running" is translates to "anak laki-laki itu sedang berlari" in Indonesia. Here, the syntactic context helps to ensure that running is translated as berlari, keeping the original meaning. On the other hand, the phrase he is a fish out of water cannot be translated literally to dia ikan di luar air in Indonesian. But this shows that the cultural context as the meaning of the idiom is better expressed as dia merasa tidak nyaman in Indonesian to show what it really means. For the next is elegant variations. Elegant variations occur when a translator chooses to convey a phrase or style in a more defined and natural way. But these variations are often unnecessary, although intended to make the translation sound better. Elegant variations can detract from the original meaning. For example, the English sentence "Bandits of Mayfair have established a reputation respected throughout the world" can be translated to Indonesian as "Bandits dari Mayfair telah membangun reputasi yang dihormati di seluruh dunia." If we change respected to recognize, it sounds nice but loses the meaning. Recognize make it sounds more elegant, but respected is better because it shows more trust and respect in the original meaning. The next is back translation of text. Back translation of text is a method used to check the accuracy and quality of the translation. It involves translating a text from the target language back into the source language to see if the original meaning is preserved. For example, the English sentence "the child is playing in the garden" becomes "anak itu sedang bermain di taman" in Indonesian. But if we translate it back to English, we get "the child is playing in the garden," which shows the meaning is preserved. But with idioms, back translation doesn't always work well. For example, "it's raining cats and dogs." It's translated as "hujan deras" in Indonesian, meaning heavy rain. If we translate it back, we lose the original phrase. This shows how some expressions don't translate exactly the same in the original language. That's all from me. The next material will be delivered by Dalpa.
are translated literally, but cultural differences can affect meaning. New terms should be handled carefully to avoid confusion. So literal translation that is accepted, for example, in institutional terms, like constitutional court is translated as Mahkamah Konstitusi. This literal translation is generally accepted because Mahkamah Konstitusi is a direct equivalent that has already been accepted in Indonesia to describe the institution. Although the original term comes from a different culture, its meaning remains clear in the context of Indonesian law. And next, constraints on literal translation. Literal translations can be inappropriate if they sound unnatural or don't fully capture the meaning in the target language. So, literal translation is not accepted in phrases like kick the bucket, which is literally translated as tendang ember. This literal translation is not suitable because in English this phrase is an idiom that means meninggal dunia. The literal translation sounds strange and doesn't capture the actual meaning, so it needs to be changed to meninggal dunia to avoid confusion. And the next is natural translation. Literal translation is useful but should feel natural. If a phrase sounds awkward, it should be repressed. Literal translation that needs to be changed to sound more natural. For example, in the sentence, I miss you like crazy. Translated as aku sangat merindukanmu. The literal translation of the sentence should be aku merindukanmu seperti orang gila. But it sounds unnatural in Indonesian, therefore it was changed to aku sangat merindukanmu to be more appropriate and natural in the target language context. And the last is recreative translation. Literal translation is the first step. If it fails, recreative translation focuses on conveying the underlying meaning, particularly in interpretation. Literal translation that needs to be changed to something more creative. For example, in the movie titled Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, translated as cahaya abadi dari pikiran yang tak ternoda. This literal translation cannot fully convey the poetic nuance of the original title, and more meaning-focused creative translation could be changed to cahaya abadi dari pikiran yang murni, which resonates more emotionally and provides a deeper interpretation in line with the film context. Okay, that's all for me, and the next explanation will be explained by Azka Nursyaban.
Alright, thank you Dede for the time. So the next one is literary translation. So it is ironical that modern literary translators reacting against a stiff and literary style, a peripherastic study in a monopolitical fashion, should neglect the intolerable struggle with words and meaning, should continually pursue what is to them more natural, more colloquial, easier, more relaxed than the original, which was not particularly relaxed anyway. Next one is the subtext. Michael Muir in 1974 has made the concept of the subtext, which is what is implied but not said, the meaning behind the meaning. Translators should not go beyond the words of the original by promoting the subtext to the status of the text. The translator can get the literal meaning but miss the real point, or translating the text but missing the subtext. So the concept of subtext refers to the underlying meaning or intention in a text that a translator must consider. Problems arise when the subtext overshadows the main text, replacing surface meaning with deeper intentions or symbols. Translators must convey these deeper meanings without changing the original tone or meaning of the text, even if culturally influenced. The translation should remain true to the original. The next one is the notion of the no equivalent word. So about 130 years ago, Betty Hart noted that language preserves national tradition through repeated phrases, even if they are no longer true. Gadamer, discussing translation, emphasized that no translation can fully replace the original, as some meaning is always lost. The translator's job is to understand and convey the meaning in their own words, rather than strictly copying the text. Gadamer also warned against trying to anticipate future changes in meaning during translation. The last one is the role of context. So context plays an important role in translation, but isn't always the dominant factor. It affects general words more than technical ones at terms. While translators must consider context, it shouldn't override primary meanings or rules. Under translation, using simpler terms can be useful for clarifying unclear text, but should be avoided when unnecessary or when it weakens a literal translation. And a good literal translation should be intentional, and despite context, literal translation remains valuable in quality work. So to conclude the whole material, literal translation is often viewed as limited. It remains a valuable tool for simple, direct translations. However, context, meaning, and cultural nuances should guide the translation process, especially for complex ideas. A balance between literal and creative approaches is the key to achieving accurate and natural translation. So that's it from Group 4. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.